Welcome everyone to our August workshop, which is about accelerating technical sales with 3D and augmented reality content. It's our pleasure to host you today. My name is Sam Grunlees. I'm the head of product at JigSpace, and joining me today is Laura Hales, our resident 3D artist. Hi, Laura.
Hi, Sam, and I'll be taking you guys through the workshop portion of today's demonstration, where I show you how to create an augmented reality presentation.
Thanks, Laura. So our agenda for today covers off 3 to 4 key things. We're going to show you an example of using 3D presentations in a sales motion and making it as efficient and integrated in your day-to-day sales tooling as possible. Then we're going to take a step back and go through the storytelling aspect of building out a great 3D presentation intended for sales that highlights key selling points and has all the things you would expect to wow a customer and generate deals. After that, we're going to show you behind the scenes in CRM and a couple other tools how you can incorporate your Jig data into those tools and make it seamless for your sales team. And stay till the end because we have an exclusive offer for those of you who watch this. Now, before we go into the workshop and the creation aspect, one of the things we really want to kind of emphasize in this presentation is the integrated nature of what you can do with Jig content once you've created it. And when we say integrated, we mean the portability of that content and where it can go. So as an example, one of the things that we're going to show you today is how to make your Jigs a day-to-day part of the assets and workflows that you use. A really common task of a salesperson is communication. Now, one of the key ways that we communicate is obviously phone calls and emails. And one of the ways that Jigs can be really portable is just by adding them into your outreach or account management. So as an example, if I was a Jig user and I had my library set up in the way that we're going to show you today, I could just send a customer a templated email using my CRM. In this case, I'm using HubSpot and Google. And in my plugin here that HubSpot provides, I can go to my recently used templates and other assets, and I'm going to select this one, and it's able to pre-build me an email with my introduction, links to the Jig, a QR code, and a thank you there. So I'm going to send that to Laura now, and it's as simple as that. So how do we get to something so simple that someone can receive, click on a link? Now, when Laura opens this email, if she was my client, the Jig will open immediately as soon as she clicks it, or she can scan it with a mobile phone, and the interactions that she does in this Jig can be tracked and available in your account to record, and you'll have that information in a way that becomes really useful in moving that sale down the pipeline. Let's just see an example of that Jig there. Great. So that 3D content immediately available to her as a prospect of mine straight from that email template, and it only took me 1 to 2 minutes to bring all that up and send it. So let's help you get to that stage where you can be really quick and efficient in delivering 3D content to your clients. I'll hand it over to you, Laura, to start on the storytelling and creation aspect, and then we'll go back behind the scenes in some of these setups.
Awesome. Thanks, Sam. So to start off today, I'm going to be showing you all how to create an augmented reality or 3D presentation for the purposes of this sales proposal. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be working on the desktop version of the JigSpace app, so we recommend that you download and install this onto your computer and log into your account. Now, once you've logged in, you should load into the Create section inside of the JigSpace Workshop. Now, this section houses all of the jigs that you'll be creating and editing Now, when we say jig, what we're referring to is or are these 3D presentations. Pardon me, my voice. So these 3D presentations are what we'll be creating to augment these sales proposals. Now, for those of you who are working on a free account, you may need to delete the current jig that you have in your scene in order to start. But for everyone else, you just need to go to New Jig, and we're going to create a new one today. So I'm going to click here. Now you should receive a pop-up asking whether you'd like to use CAD samples from the 3D model library, or if you'd like to use your own CAD files. Now, when we say CAD, what we mean is a 3D model that's created during the production design phase of a product. So in order for you to access these models typically within your company, you would need to request these from a product engineer inside of that organization. And for those of you interested, we have a range of security features within our app, including SOC2 compliance. But for the purposes of this demonstration today, we're going to be using a 3D model from our 3D model library. So I'm going to click on this. And you'll be loaded into the model library, which is filled with assets that have been created by the JigSpace team. You can see we have a number of CAD samples here. This model library can also be used to house your company assets as well. So if you save a 3D model to your team object library, everyone who's a part of your company tenant will have access to these models. And this is a great way for you to achieve consistency across different projects because they'll have the same formatting on all of the models downloaded by different members of your team. But for today's demonstration, we're going to be using a jet engine model. Now, in order to find this or bring this up, I could type in the search objects bar and add jet. Or in this case, I'm going to go to inventions. And you can see that we have this jet engine model stored here. So I'm going to select that. And that's going to load into our scene. Now you can see we have a little performance indicator here, but it's all fine for now. Now you'll notice that the jig scene or the 3D space that we've now loaded into is where we'll be working in order to edit this jet engine model. Now, in order for you to navigate yourself around this space, you just need to press and hold down on the right mouse button, and that will let you rotate your view. You can zoom in and zoom out using the scroll wheel or the scroll wheel. And in order for you to pan yourself around the scene, you just need to press the space bar and click and drag with the left mouse button. And you can see that that lets you pan yourself around this space. So these are the basic controls we'll be using in order to navigate ourselves around this 3D scene. And you can see that we currently have our model selected, and that's brought up the toolbar that we use in order to edit the different attributes of this 3D model. We also have the ability, if I press tab or select these cubes at the top of our toolbar, to swap into sub-object mode. And this allows us to select the individual meshes that make up this 3D file. Now, in order for us to begin creating a presentation, the animation process inside of Jig works in a step-by-step format similar to PowerPoint. So I'm going to go to our timeline at the top of our scene, and I'm going to add a new step to our Jig. Now on step 2, I'm going to select this outer shell as well as this front rim piece. In order for me to do that, I'm going to press and hold down Shift and then click on this object to add it to my selection. To remove it from my selection, I just need to continue to hold Shift and click on that object again. So it's really quite simple for you to select the correct objects. Just click on it again if you wanted to remove it. So now that I have these objects selected, And with the Move tool selected inside of my toolbar, I'm going to click and drag on this blue arrow in order to move this outer casing aside. And then I'm going to go to the Color Palette tool, and I'm going to click on this eye to hide the object in our scene. And now when we are viewing this jig in augmented reality, when I go from step 1 to step 2, I get a nice smooth transition where that outer casing fades out and we reveal the internal components of our product. Now in this case, in order to begin discussing the different features of our product, I'm going to highlight different aspects of our new design. So I'm going to select this turbine and I'm going to give it a label and add in some information about our new product. Oops. There we go. And next I'm going to turn on the Always Show button. And that will just mean that that label is always visible within our scene. It will always direct the user's attention to the turbine. So that's live on this current step. So when I go back to step 1, that'll turn off. But on step 2, when we reveal these internal components, that user's attention will be drawn to this key feature of our product. So next I'm going to add another step into our jig. Now you can see that as I'd selected step 2, the new step I've created is an exact copy of step 2. So I'm going to select the turbine and turn off that label. And on step 3 of our jig, I'd like to show off the fuel efficiency that our new design is able to achieve. So in order to show that this turbine is currently on this step, I'm going to apply some spin to my object. Now you can see we have a number of different axes we can rotate this object on, but I'm happy with it currently on the x-axis. And I can speed this rotation up by dragging along this slider or typing in a custom value in here. So we've got some nice rotation happening on this object. When I click off that object, the rotation or spin is still contained in this scene. It's just not active in the editor. So if I wanted to preview this, I could go to the View Jig and check this jig out inside of our preview settings. Now, as I want to show off the fuel efficiency on this step of our jig, I'm going to also add in an effect shape. So I'm going to go to Add Content, and I'll go back to our 3D model library. And we have a category called Effects, which has a number of different effects shapes in it. In this case, I'm going to use the flow cylinder. And I'm just going to apply this to the current step of our jig. So I'm going to select only this step and import this object here. Now you'll notice that we've zoomed quite far into our scene. This is because we have quite a small object in the Jig Workshop. If you ever bring in an especially large or small object, in order to reorient yourself back to the base scale, you just need to double tap on the background and that will zoom out and reorient your view. Now in this case, I'm going to select this flow effect and I want to bring it over to the rear or the exhaust space of our jet engine. So I'm going to use the Move tool to drag our object over here. I'm then going to use our Rotate tool. And if I press and hold Shift while dragging on these arrows, I'm able to achieve a 15-degree rotation at a time, which can be a great way of creating a 90-degree turn on your 3D assets. So with the Scale tool selected, I'm clicking and dragging on this yellow cube in order to scale up our flow effect. And I'm also going to drag along the green cube in order to speed up this animation and get it to encompass the internal area of the exhaust, as well as show that thrust happening inside of our jet engine. And I'm also going to change the color to be a warm burntish orange to show that that air has been superheated. So now I have 3 steps to my jig. I've got step 1, step 2, and step 3. So I'm pretty happy with the animation so far. What I would recommend next when creating a jig is that you begin filling in your text and discussing the different products that you'll be reviewing today. So we have an information panel at the bottom of our screen. Here I would write our introductory text describing our new product design. On step 2, I would discuss some of the statistics involved in the reduced wear over time and some of the science behind the new alloys that we've created. And on step 3, I would type in the different measures we've taken in order to achieve that fuel efficiency over time. Another great way for you to add this information into your jig is you can record your voice into the jig. So if I click this button, right now it's currently recording my voice. So you could actually add this information in as audio as well. So that's just going to upload my recording into this step of the jig. I'm just going to remove it for now. And another feature that I think I'd like to add into this jig, just to augment the presentation so far, is I'll add in a backing image to sit alongside that jet engine as well. So again, I'm going to the Add Content menu, and in this case, I'm going to bring in an image file. Now in this case, I'd like this image to be present on all of the steps of my jigs. So I'm going to change this to all steps. And once again, I've zoomed in quite close to our jet engine. So I'm just going to slide this aside, and then I'll double click on the floor, and that will reorient myself out a bit and make positioning a bit more simple. So I'm going to lift up this object and scale it up in our scene. You can see that this image card has all of the same attributes as a regular 3D model. So the process of positioning it is just the same. Now, I'd also like to point out that images inside of the Jig Workshop or .png files do support transparency. So I'm going to go to the color palette, and if I drag slightly down on our transparency bar, you can see that that background color does support that transparency. So you may have noticed that on this step of our jig, I've moved and repositioned our object in the scene. So I'm going to copy these edits across to the other steps of our jig. Now, in order to do that, I pressed and held on any of the tools in the jig toolbar, and I'm going to select the attributes that I had edited, and I'll copy those to all the next steps of our jig. So now when viewing our jig, you can see that we have these statistics available for our users to see. So this can be some good information to augment our pitch. And we also have this option to click and learn more integrated into this image. So I'm going to actually set this image up as a direct link to some further information about our proposal. Now I'm just going to move our little zoom bar. In order for me to make this object an actionable object, I'm going to apply actions to it. So I'm going to go to the top right-hand corner, and I'll open up the Object Properties panel. And with this object selected, I'm going to add an action. And in this case, I'm going to direct a user to a website using a URL code. So I'm going to paste that in here, and I'll apply this to all the steps of my jig. And now when viewing our object or image in the scene, you can see it has a soft flash animation that scrolls across. That means the object is live, and anyone viewing this AR presentation, either in augmented reality or on the web viewer, when they click on this object, they'll be directed to the link in question. So I can test this out now by pressing Alt and clicking on this object. And you can see I've opened up a page in our preferred browser, and it's opened up directly to a case study that relates to our product. So that can be a great way to add further integration into your jig. So at this stage, what I'd like to do next is save this out. And then I'll copy some shareable links and pass it over to Sam so that he can show us how we integrate these jigs inside of a sales proposal. So in order to do this, I'm going to go to the top right-hand corner and open up our share options. In here, we're able to generate a shareable link that we can share with people in order for them to access our jig. We also have a number of different options. If we set it to private, only members of our internal company team are able to view the jig. And we also have the ability to allow password protection. This can be a great way of adding further security to IP, such as the 3D models that may be important either internally to your company or maybe collateral being used by a potential sales prospect. So once I have this selected, just for now, I'll set this to anyone with a link can view for the purposes of our demonstration. And we also have the option to share this with the entire team. This just means that this jig will be available to view for every member of your company tenant. It will be in their account. They won't be able to edit it. You'll retain those rights, but they'll be able to view, and you can allow them to further share this jig on either inside or outside the company. Now we also have the ability to create a embed code, and this HTML can be plugged into websites in order to run the JigSpace web viewer natively inside of that website. So that can be a great way of integrating in LMSs. And we also have the ability to create a downloadable QR code. In this case, I'm going to take that share link and I'm going to paste it inside of our chat. So if you'll wait just a moment, Sam.
Thank you, Laura. So I've now copied that. And I'm going to go back to sharing my screen just to finish off the examples here we were talking about. So to recap, how you can integrate these presentations that you've just seen that Laura's done a great example of that shows you how to bring your product to life, adding key selling points, making it shareable and available is a couple of key ways. So the two ways I'm going to show you now are integrating with a CRM. Now the CRM that we are typically demoing and using is HubSpot, but the same functionality exists in things like Salesforce or Zoho, Pipedrive. Lots of CRM support these basic features. So the two things we're going to look at is how to add content to deals and also adding links into your library of templates and snippets for a sales team to use. The first thing I'll show you is at a deal level. So on HubSpot, all of your sales deals kind of live against a deal record, which combines contact information, company information, all the notes and logged information like meetings and calls and so on. But it's also a place for assets to live. So in this example here, you've got information about the customer, the company, as well as attachments that might have been added from past correspondence or official attachments like a request for a bid on a project, and then eventually quotes and onboarding information if they become a customer and you need to start doing account management. So I've set up in in this example, for every single deal, a jig link. And that's very straightforward to set up. In HubSpot, I simply have to do that in the back end. Now, you may not be the person doing this, watching this webinar, but you can give this information to your CRM administrator. But all I need to do is, in the property manager of the CRM system, add in a new property. So I could just show you that again here, where we basically make a deal information. We can call it a jig link, give it a description, put a copy of your 3D presentation here. And the key thing is just to make it a single line of text as the type of information. Now, so this is something that your CRM administrator can do. Once you have that, as you're adding information and logging calls, logging meetings against a deal, and your presentation is ready, you can paste the jig link. Now, this is the one that Laura has shared with me just now, into your deal record. And that way, anyone who's helping on this account, it could be the person who takes over the deal when it becomes a sale, it could be a sales assistant, an SDR handing over to business development, or a senior manager. All of that sales collaboration, it's great having the information together. And what it means is someone can go to this record anytime, and they can simply click on the jig link in the deal record, and it will immediately bring up a preview of that proposal as was seen by the client when you shared it with them. And this is a live link, so any changes to this document, will be reflected in this. And you can now see in a web browser, as one example, this presentation, I'm able to manipulate it, click on these different elements. If I click on the image there, it's going to the website, as Laura demonstrated earlier. So just having jig links there mean everyone's on the same page and aligned on that information. The second element is setting up your templates and snippets. So in HubSpot, they have a concept called templates, which are examples. I'll just find the latest version here that we've made. Example emails that basically pre-fill straight into Gmail, like we saw at the start of this presentation. So in here, I've got some examples of a configurator with a QR code that I've added. It's very simple to kind of create these, and then the sales team can access them anytime from their email platform. The other part that's also very handy are snippets. And snippets are just smaller amounts of text that you can add to correspondence to, again, make sure the right content, the right library of collateral is going out, and making it really quick for a sales manager. So for example, I could have each of these, typically when I've set them up, just the name and a link so that they can be added into any type of email. So they're really easy to set up. You just build a little folder of them with all your links as they get created, and then the sales team can continue to use them. So there's some quick examples of integrating with the CRM. The next things that I wanted to show you is embedding in collateral. So we'll do a demo of embedding a jig in a live online document with iframe, but you can also add QR codes to printed collateral or to PDFs and kind of more traditional submissions in a sales environment. Or you can actually just record a video straight off the iPad or iPhone of your jig in AR, which is a very common thing to do, and upload that as supplementary material when you're doing a sales proposal. For now, though, let's go to an example of a bid submission. So there are a ton of tools out there for sending quotes and proposals. I'm using Notion, which is a very common online document maker, but we have customers using Quilla, using Coda, or using SharePoint. There's so many different ways people can do that. Now, if you imagine that you've put together some extra information for your proposal, and it might have some images or specifications, might have an introduction, to add an embedded version of your jig to one of these documents, you can simply just, again, paste in the link. So I'm just going to paste in this link that Laura shared in the chat, which you can see on my screen here. And instead of just leaving it as it is, I can select Create Embed. Most software will do this because JigSpace links automatically unfurl into an embedded iframe view. So you'll just see this slowly loading now, and I'll resize it to fit how I want it to look. And what this means is when someone opens this document in a web browser, they can not just get any information that you've pasted in, like these technical pictures, but in line with all the other written information, they will have an interactive version of the models and the jig presentation. If they want to view it in AR from a desktop, they just click the view in AR and scan it with their phone. Really simple way to do that. So those jig links are really flexible. They'll unfurl into embedded formats, and they can be added to all sorts of forms and cells in a CRM system or a database. The last thing that we'll talk about is just scaling this out now. So we've been investing in a lot of features this year to help scale out sales-based use cases of JigSpace, because doing one sales presentation is a little bit of an investment, but as you build more and more of them, you need to find efficiencies in the creation of them, as well as custom use cases. So there is now the ability inside JigSpace to, once you've made a presentation, to set it as a template. To do that, you go to the Jig information panel and just make sure other people can copy it and that it's set to team only. That's available on the organization plan. Laura showed you password protected, so that's great for submitting bids or proposals on either confidential tenders or confidential requests for information, or if your product itself needs an extra layer of security so that it's only shared on a one-to-one basis. The benefit of the password protected sharing is that nobody needs to download software to view your 3D content. So it's, again, very flexible, but very secure at the same time. And finally, you'll often want to know, is my presentation being viewed? Did the client click on it? Did they? How long did they spend looking at it? In our content analytics module that's part of the organization plans, you can get that level of data as well. So we'll talk about this now. We have, as a special offer, anyone who watches this webinar can get in touch with us, and we'll give you a 30-day extended trial of these organization features. So that's just something we'll talk about right at the end of the presentation. But we want to just show you that we're investing a lot in these sales use cases, and it's important to kind of take advantage of all of those as you go from 1 proposal to 10 proposals to 50 proposals inside JigSpace. So that concludes the workshop part of the webinar. We have a couple questions that look like they've been added in anonymously here. Should we quickly answer those, and then we'll wrap things up because we're almost at time. Yep. We have a question: what can we track from Jigs? Can we track when a customer views our presentation? So I actually just mentioned that. So in the content analytics module of JigSpace, you can see views on jigs per jig. You can see when someone clicks on anything that's an interactive object. So Laura made that panel interactive with the action. So whenever someone clicks on one of those actions, that gets recorded and it's in the reporting. And the amount of time that's spent viewing the content itself will also get recorded. So that's what's available in that. I suggest you take up that offer and check out the content analytics. That's very cool. And we have another question. I'm not sure if you want to answer this, Laura. Do SDRs or account managers, so sales development reps or account managers, create jigs by themselves, or do a design and marketing team normally make them? That's an interesting question.
I would say that generally the design or marketing team would probably take up that task, but the platform is very simple and very easy to use. We also have a lot of tools and resources available to teach you how to use them online. So really it's up to your team who's going to go about creating the jigs themselves.
And would you suggest, Laura, maybe it's often good to have the first bit of content, have everyone involved, so that if it does end up getting kind of a lot of content being made by a designer or marketing team, that it's sort of done closely with the sales team, and then
then everyone's on the same page.
Yeah, everyone's on the same page. And you could use that template feature that we now have to save like make I guess a generic version that sales teams can just quickly copy and change a couple of details of and kind of make their own, but without the heavy lifting perhaps. Great, thanks for those questions. That gets us to, I guess, our final step. So as one of the outcomes of this, these are, I guess, the three things we'd leave you with to get going with sales proposals and take them to the next level. Just make sure if you haven't, get the apps install the apps per the download link and set up an account. We now also have templates inside the Explore section of the JigSpace app. So if you're stuck for an idea, just take one of these and you'll get some inspiration, and you've got a guided tour inside those templates. So that's a great way just to get started if you're a little bit stuck. And we extend an offer for anyone to have a one-on-one session. So if you want to bring us into your business and have us chat with someone who looks after your CRM and they're using a different system to HubSpot, or you just want to chat about your scenario or the type of content, we're happy to do that. Just go to the book a demo part of JigSpace, and we'll happily arrange a more personalized demo with you. If you'd like to take up the extended day trial of the org plan, just message us after the chat. It'll be in the follow-up email as well. So that's the end of our webinar. Thank you very much for watching and for those questions. And we'll see you next time.
Yes, we look forward to hearing from you.